And welcome to the stream. I am putting out a tweet because I forgot to. Today we're going to be going over the board game from last night. Alright, streaming my analysis of my OTB game from last night. Did I win? No. From last night. Link in bio. If I put a link, Twitter just buries it. So there we go. Oh, shout out to the chess punks. This doesn't make any sense. Doing the analysis. Okay, thanks for indulging me in that. All right, so what I've done today is I've put this the source here. It looks a little bit weird, but it should mean, ooh, spoiler alert, it should mean that when I scroll down to write a comment that you can still see the top of the board, kind of. So there's only one other thing I need to do, which is open the chat. So don't say anyone anything. So don't say anything anyone. And all right, let's get going. So let's see. Let me just put the chat on my phone as well. Sorry, I'm still having not technical issues. Say being technologically challenged. The old man I am. Right, and that way I should be able to see the chat on my phone. Great. So, let's find out who was playing. I had the white pieces. And I was playing against, let's call them Jan, to protect their anonymity. And I need to go over to the club website. Hopefully nobody can see this. Just double check so that I'm not exposing my opponent publicly. I choose to do this voluntarily for some reason. They don't need. I put my bad chess online for everyone to see. They did not consent to that, so I'll check. So after my draw with our strong player last week, I'm up to 1627. These are internal ratings, by the way, which are based off of what everyone's FIDE or CAN-SB rating was. So it's roughly equivalent. And my opponent this week was rated 1604. So I think that's a strong opponent. So before the game I wasn't as motivated as I guess I sometimes am. But I do have a really good routine, I think, and I got into that. So that kind of got me in the zone. Part of my routine is that just before I leave the house, I put on really loud music, and my kid, who is 3 years old, just screams at me, "You're gonna win!" And I scream back, "I'm gonna win!" And we kind of do that for a while, whilst it gets me all fired up. Then I cycle really fast to the chess club, and I think that gets rid of a lot of extra energy. And then I do some breathing exercises right before the round starts. Harmony Walker, welcome to the stream. My day so far has been pretty good. I'm pretty tired, but I'm excited to go over this game. No spoilers as to the result, but I am smiling. And it's difficult to make me smile sometimes. All right. So, before going into this game, I was 8.5 out of 12, 8.5 out of 12, which I am super pleased with. And I've decided after the game last night that I'm sitting 27th in the league. My club has 2 teams that they enter into the official CAN-SB league. That's the same league that Anish Giri and Jordan Van Forest play in, albeit that I'd be like, several divisions below them, but whatever. So yeah, I would like to be on that team or one of those teams. And the teams are comprised of 8 players, which would mean I would really need to probably finish in the top 16. So I'm currently 27th, but after two losses, yeah, we're getting there. So yeah, thank you very much. All right, so let's take a look. I played d4 because that's what I play. My opponent played d5. I played knight f3, so that's what I play. They played knight f6, which I think is, a lot of people are somewhat confused by my second move. I'm just going to play c4. But sometimes knight f3, it avoids some annoying things, and yeah, I prefer it. Alright, they played the Slav. I play the exchange against the Slav. So that's what I did, I took. And I did look at my opponent, which I think is important to look at your opponent. And I felt like they were maybe a little bit, like they don't like this. I think if you play the Slav, maybe you don't want the exchange Slav. I mean, it's a positional opening anyway, but obviously this is now a completely symmetrical pawn structure with an open C file. If you're interested in this pawn structure, Johan Helstein has a really good 4-part series on it on chess.com, I believe, if you just, it's like pawn structures or something, I don't know. But yeah, this is the exchange Slav pawn structure, in, as he calls it, in that series. So, move 5, bishop f4. You can also play knight c3, I believe, and this shows you how. After the game, I asked my opponent what he thought he was good at, like comparatively, or compared to his rating peers, and he said openings. So I definitely think I made a good choice here because I don't know any opening theory. I really don't. But I did remember from very small amount of research I've done that bishop f4 for some reason has a slightly higher win rate on Lichess if you look at the table, the database for my sort of level, and compared to knight to c3. So I don't know why that is, because the moves are practically the same, but this is a slightly higher win rate. So I played this, they played this, and then I put the knight out. Then I played a6, which I just thought was a waste of time, but my opponent pointed out after the game that there is a reason for it. But if you don't know how I analyze games on this channel, what I do is the first pass is I try and write down accurately the exact thoughts and feelings I had at the board and the variations I calculated at the board. So although my opponent told me what a6 did after the game, I'm not going to be recording that at the moment. If anyone's interested, it's to stop knight b5, which is supposedly there's now some issues. Okay. I guess it's in some ways similar to the Jabava London, if anyone knows that. If you want to Jabava someone, you play knight b5 early, and sometimes it can win you the game early if your opponent doesn't know what they're doing. So a6, that's why. We're going to talk a lot about this move, because in this structure, this move is really interesting. We'll get to that though. So I was aware that because this is a symmetrical structure, times I've played a3 in the past, I've kind of been burned later on in the game. So we'll take a look at why that might be. And by the way, I hope everyone can hear me. I hope that this is actually working and everything, the mic is fine. I had some mic issues before, but I'm sure it's okay. So I played e3, developing the bishop. They played bishop to g4, and at this point I'm already out of book. So I'm going to write that down, like I'm already out of book. Hopefully you can still see the top of the screen here. Already out of book. So like I said, don't really know openings, but I feel like with my opening repertoire it's fine anyway. I play structures, not openings, and I know this structure, so I should be okay, especially in the exchange Slav. I don't think there's anything really happening here. So I just broke the pin. I just played bishop to e2. Don't want to move pawns in the opening if I can avoid it. Trying to stick to principles. They developed bishop, open a window for the bishop at least. I castled. They put the bishop here. I just exchanged. I mean, what else? And then I played rook c1. The rooks in this structure belong in the c file. So I didn't think there could be anything wrong with this move. My opponent castled. And now, okay, good. I did this deliberately. So I tried to put my face over the annotation. So even though I've already input this game, because I thought that saved time, last time I was, you know, messing about with my score sheet, and it was taking a long time to actually input the move. So I'm not doing that this time. This time I'm just, I've already put it in, but I'm trying to hide the move so that I'm not spoiling it. So how long have you been streaming, like in general? This is my third ever stream. I analysed my last game, and I did some rapid games, which the quality of my rapid chess much lower than the quality of my classical chess, although the quality of this game is debatable, I'll say. So this is the first major thought process point for me, and what I'm always saying to my students is that it's not chess, it's you. Your thought process is much more important than the actual chess. And I had a major thought process error here. One of my major rules is, if you don't know what to do in a position, if you're not sure what to play, don't touch a pawn. Because pawns cannot move backwards. If you move a piece, especially in a quiet position like this, you can always move it back, right? And maybe it'll cost you some time, but it is reversible. So I didn't know what to do here, right? I wasn't really sure what to play, and I also didn't think that it was critical. So I told myself that, and I'm going to write this down. So I wasn't sure what to play here. And I knew, or I reminded myself internally, that I shouldn't move a pawn if I don't know what to do. So what did I do? I moved the pawn. I played a3, which caused me some headaches later on. What's your plans? Like, are you just going to stream this game or another one as well? I'm afraid this is going to be it. I am going to be analysing my my game from last night. So I'm aware some other streamers are maybe playing lots of blitz games, but this stream it's somewhat selfishly partly for me, to force me to sit down and actually do some chess training at a point in the day where normally I'm not very productive because my kids are going to bed, so I'm constantly getting interrupted, and so I'm not really able to switch off, and I'm not really able to concentrate on anything either. But if I say I'm streaming, then technically I'm working and nobody can come through that door. So that's the ideas behind the stream. So they'll always start at this time. I started 15 minutes ago, every Tuesday and Thursday. That's the plan. So I played a3 and I was really annoyed, right? And I think, although we should look at alternatives later in the next pass, I think I could have just moved the queen up to d2. Maybe I could have even put the queen on d3, but I don't know. Maybe that runs into like bishop f5 or something. So yeah, maybe queen d2 was probably better, but yeah, I played a3, so we'll delete queen d2 for now because I'm trying to not do this. So they played, I'm trying not to put things into the study that I didn't actually think about at the board. So they played rook f to c8, and I played rook to c2, thinking I'm going to double my rooks, but what am I doing? Like, when? And I think, and so I'll write this down as well. They then played knight to a5, and this was like a major thought process error as well, right? So as soon as they played knight a5, I realized that I wasn't thinking. You know, I kind of got into this like, oh yeah, it's the Slav, it's the exchange Slav, it's a quiet opening, nothing's happening, and I'm just playing moves. I was very much on autopilot. I wasn't thinking, I was playing on autopilot. I wasn't really giving much consideration, because after they played this, I thought, huh, I should have played that. I should have played that instead of rook c2. Like, I can't double my rooks in the next move anyway, because the queen's in the way. So I think here, I should have, but I thought about it retrospectively. It wasn't until they'd played this that I thought, huh, I should have played that. So, and I'm threatening this fork, and because I'm threatening that fork, now I'm going to get to land on this square, because they're going to need to deal with that. And I'm going to get the knight to c5 straight away, which is really awkward, actually, as we will see, because my opponent is the one that's going to get their knight to this outpost before me. And this is, again, feature of the exchange Slav structure. There's not much going on. We have an open C file, and these squares, you know, this one for me, and this one for, I'll do a different color, this one for black, you know, getting a knight there can be quite nice. And obviously you also have these outpost squares, outpost-ish squares as well. So yeah, that was a part of my thought process that I realized here that I was playing on autopilot, and actually I got up. So at least I was in some way correcting myself. So I stood up here and had a word with myself. I told myself to start slowing down and yeah, trying to play a little bit more with a bit more care. But it was already a bit late for this. My position already starts to get awkward, as you'll see. So I thought, well, what does the move do? What's the move no longer do? That is my blunder checking tool, by the way. Oh, sorry, I'm not keeping an eye on chat. Are you looking for some stuff for your channel? It looks attractive for your channel, like the visual stuff. Yeah, I mean, eventually I'm aware that if people follow me, there's no notification or anything like that. Eventually I will do that. Right now, I just want to start. I figure it can look good later. For example, when we launched the podcast, I had to have a podcast season out. Oh no, another chess podcast. We tried to perfect it straight away. And that just meant it took ages to get out, and the whole thing became like overproduced and complicated. So this time I decided, let's just start with just me talking, and we can work out the details later. All right, so yeah, I thought, what does the move do? What's the move no longer do? Well, it undefends this square, so at least I can, you know, I can get my knight up, and this solves some issues potentially. This is forced, I think they have to take. Now, I did actually do a lot of calculating here, so I should point out that after they played this move, I was really worried about the knight coming to c4. Okay, so like I said, I had a word myself, and I was feeling pretty bad, but I'll also say I was really not liking knight coming to c4, sorry. So I thought I had this way to stop it, and my calculation was after knight e5, bishop takes e2, knight takes e2, knight to c4, I was going to play queen to c1. And then I thought that yeah, I just misvisualized, but as we'll see, it was actually totally fine. So I played this, they took, and I continued, but this is horrendous. Like, I'm almost embarrassed to show this, because like I should definitely just take with the queen here. I think taking with the queen is just visually looks so much better. I'm ready to double my rooks. And so the thought process out here was, I did all this calculation thinking that queen c1 stopped knight b4. And I didn't, you know, I have this blog post, look both ways when you cross the road, where I'm supposed to be stopping every move to double check my calculations, and I wasn't doing that. So 95, I had made a calculation as per the game continuation, but, huge but, did not stop for long enough to double check everything between moves. So, yeah, that's a recurring problem in my chess, something that I'm constantly aware of and something that I'm constantly working on, and, you know, hopefully analyzing these games will help. So, I still think that Queen C1 is actually a good move. Pointing out that they can't really take this knight because there's some stuff going on here. And I don't know. Sorry. Yeah. Still don't think this is very good for me, but it was possible and I didn't even stop to look. So, yeah, I should have just realized at this stage that, oh, okay, I've miscalculated here. This doesn't really work. I should take with the queen. Taking with the queen is so much better. I didn't. I took with the knight. And now my position starts to get really awkward and it becomes really quite challenging to untangle, actually. Yeah. So, let's take a look at what happens. They do get the knight into c4, and now you can just see how much of a pain in the ass this knight is on c4 in the structure, right? If I had a knight on c5, it would also be annoying. And now we can see how bad the move a3 is, right? Remember when I didn't know what to do and I flicked in the move a3? I can't play b3 now, right? And b3 is a move, it's nice to keep that move in reserve in this structure just to get rid of the knight that comes to c4. And b3 is extremely hard to play now. Well, that would be an impressive knight move. It's extremely hard to play now because of the pressure against a3. So b3 is difficult. So anyway, I just brought the knight back. Figuring, you know, I don't want them to take here and then I'd lose a pawn. So now they jump the other knight in, which I completely missed. So I didn't even consider this. Right. I've got myself in a real mess now. Right. I played this. And I figured this was just fine, right? There's not... I didn't think there was any way they could, you know, unless they could just go back, which might be better, and say, why is your knight on g3? And I say, I'm not sure. So maybe they should have just gone back. Anyway, they took, and I have to take, but the h-pawn here, this would be upsetting. No one wants to see that. So, I will actually point out that after I played this move, I got up and I went to the toilet, and when I came back, I suddenly was like, I suddenly had this moment of panic as I thought, wait, can they maybe like somehow take here and there's this fork? Like just visually when I sat back down, I saw this enormous fork on e3. Anyway, there's nothing there actually, but I just thought that was funny that I sat down and immediately thought I blundered or something for a second. So take back like this. Again, we'll delete this. I didn't really think about that in the game. Seems like I didn't do a lot of thinking. Rook c6, preparing to double. Now I had a plan to untangle. My plan to untangle was weird, but we'll get to it. So I thought if I can achieve these pawn moves, then I can get rid of the knight maybe, right? But I have to play a4 first, probably. But once I play a4, if I can somehow keep hold of the b pawn and just keep that covered, then I could probably get rid of this really annoying knight without hanging my a pawn. So that was my idea here. I started with queen b1, thinking if I'm going to play b3, I want to have some support on that, and it also allows my rook to come over and double. So those are my thoughts. At the time, so then they played b6, keeping my knight out of c5. I actually think this is a mistake, and again it comes back to playing the move a6 or a3 in this structure. So immediately, not immediately, first I doubled. I figured the opportunity wasn't going anywhere. Then they put the rook back, which actually I think is really smart because, yeah, well, there was something my opponent pointed out to me after the game, which I wasn't really seeing, but yeah, there's some weird lines here. But anyway, it stops the knight jumping in here with tempo, which could be super annoying, right? Because the problem is that if they double now, then now they're just going to lose a pawn, I think. But there was always some weird tactics going on with like this check. Like there was stuff that I constantly had to be keeping an eye on. Sorry, not this check, but this attack on the queen, this intermediate move. And then it's like, well, if I don't want to lose my queen, I should take. But then, so there was always weird stuff happening. Anyway, they came back. I came to here, and they played this move, which I was actually really hoping to induce. So I think at this point, I felt like even though my position had been uncomfortable, I had kind of untangled. Yeah, I felt like I had kind of untangled here, and I felt like, okay, this is fine. And actually, yeah, I was really pleased to see this move because of this square. And I thought my knight can now jump into this weak square here, this square on b5. Can now, you know, never be defended by a pawn again. So I played the move knight back to a2. Hello. Thank you. With the idea of using that square. Remember, my plan is to push these pawns, get rid of their knight, and maybe improve mine. Now they doubled rooks. I continued with my plan to try and plant this knight on b5. Obviously, I'm immediately threatening a fork, so they moved the queen back. And this also gives their knight a space, right? Look at something here. Their knight has absolutely no squares they can go to right now. But I still can't play b3 because they'll just take on a3. So this makes sense in that they're also giving their knight a square to retreat to, and then they can cover the b5 square, which is exactly what they did here. So at least I've gotten the knight off of c4 through the threat of getting my own knight to b5, which felt good. But again, at no point did I ever think I was better here. I just felt like, okay, I'm a bit relieved. I feel like I've untangled somewhat. Now, my next move is terrible, but we'll get to why I played it in a minute. So I completely miscalculated here. I thought that the knight was pinned, and it does kind of look like that, right? This, but sorry, the rook is. I'm getting tired. These streams always come at the end of a long day for me. Probably not the best time to be analyzing, but yeah, this rook is defended 2 times. Right, can still count 1, 2, and it's attacked 1, 2 times, so it's okay. But for some weird reason, I was like, oh, the knight's pinned. I can't move the knight because if I move the knight, I'll lose the rook. So I was like, oh, the only way to untangle is to bring the king to d2. Just complete hallucination. So completely hallucinate here. Like I said, I wasn't on like top form. I felt like I just didn't feel like I was playing well. I will say I kept reminding myself throughout the game, like, you need to win this. You're gonna win. You're gonna win. Like, I was trying to be positive, even though I really was unhappy with the way I played up until now. So I played King F1, just an absolutely bizarre move. You know, opens me up to a potential, obviously not right now, potential check there someday. Also this knight coming in. There's now like now I just had to keep a lot of an eye on stuff. So King F1 is not something I was delighted about. I think, right, sorry, I've now just remembered what I hallucinated. So yeah, I hallucinated that my plan was to put the queen on to b3 via a2. So queen a2, queen b3. And I thought I couldn't play queen a2, right? I didn't visualize. This is my hallucination. I remember now. It's weird how it's so difficult, right? You think, wow, I sat and thought about this game for hours, but you can't remember. So now the knight is pinned, and I was worried about this. And now it's like, I can't move the knight because I lose the rook, right? If you take here, now you do lose a rook. Well, not a rook, but you lose the exchange. So, yeah, okay, I guess, whatever. You lose the exchange. So that was my hallucination, was that the knight's pinned, and after knight to e4, I'm in trouble. But I'm just not. Because after knight to e4, I just play queen b3 as per my plan, putting pressure on the only weakness on the board. This is all I could come up with, by the way. This is the only plan I could find in the game, was to go after this pawn. I thought, maybe this improves my position slightly. And this kind of ends up looking like the game. So we'll come back here. So that is why King F1 was played. Was because of this hallucination. Anyway, my hallucination was brief. Because my opponent clearly also doesn't know what to do, right? Everything is so stuck in this position, right? The knight doesn't want to move because he doesn't want to let me into b5. And yeah, there's just, like, what do you do? So they played h6, and they even said after the game, they were like, I don't know what to do. And as I said, you should probably not move pawns when you don't know what to do. But I do also like I think it's Bent Larsen quote, if you don't know what to do, shove a wing pawn. But maybe with h5, the idea to gain more space or something like that. So anyway, my hallucination, I realized, I don't need to bring the king to d2. I can do this. So I continued with my plan. And then they played this, and I played this. Yeah, so we reached this position. This pawn is now hanging, and so my opponent just exchanged off everything. Knight takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, and I had to take with the pawn. I did calculate that from after when they played this. Before I played queen to b3, I did calculate that whole line, and figured I would have to take with the pawn. I think if I take with the queen, it gets really dangerous, because after this pawn drops, the fact that I have played king f1 means that this is actually checkmate. So I'm not even in time to like go after their pawns or something, because I'm gonna have to end up with a really passive position here. So yeah, this is not the bedoeling, as they say in the Netherlands. All right, so I took with pawn. It looks ugly because you have this backward c pawn, but I figured that actually it was fine. Now I expected here, and I'll write this down as well, thought here that this was just going to be a draw. Now, this was just going to be a draw, because it's a queen endgame, and we both got this weak pawn, and yeah, I just felt like we'll probably just repeat here and just shuffle the queens back and forth, and nothing will happen for a while, and then we'll agree to draw. Sorry, it's not what I played. So I brought the king closer because I evaluated the pawn endgame as winning for me. And I thought, well, now my king is one step closer, and I like this. And this is my last and terrible thought process error. Whether or not the king and pawn endgame is winning, whether or not the king and pawn endgame is winning, you need to know. King and pawn endgames it's rare that you enter a king and pawn endgame where black is slightly better or white is slightly better. Normally white is winning, black is winning, or it's a draw. And so if you don't know for sure, if you are not certain the king and pawn endgame is winning, or like if you're not sure exactly what's happening, do not enter it in capital letters. Just don't do that to yourself. That's not what we do. So, all right. Let me just check something here. I'll take a slight break before we get into this king and pawn endgame. Spoiler alert: we get into the king and pawn endgame. Okay. I just want to check quickly if Lee Chess is oh yeah, it's doing the streaming thing now, so it's working. That's good. That's nice to know. Okay, so yeah, this is a thought process error. Whether or not the king and pawn endgame is winning, lost, or drawn, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I went into it without really considering it. My calculation was as simple as queen to c4 check, queen takes, pawn takes, and now my king is more active. That was embarrassingly as far as my evaluation went of the position. I was just like, oh yeah, and then I play king f3, they play, and my king is going to get like all the way here before their king can even get off the second rank. And surely then I'm better. That's not good enough in a king and pawn endgame. I need variations, not words in a king and pawn endgame. Variations are the only thing that are acceptable in evaluating the move at king e2. So my opponent also did not take enough time here, I will say, and they admitted that themselves. They played this move after like, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes. Certainly not enough time to work out what is going on here. Now, as soon as we entered this, I realized I'd made a mistake, right? So I wonder if anyone can actually see what's the problem here, right? Or what I misvisualized. I thought, oh yeah, now my king is super active and I can just bring the king all the way up. Can anyone tell me why this is terrible? No worries if you don't want to write in the chat. Am I looking for stuff for my channel? Not really. I think I'm sort of happy doing it this way, as a dinosaur might do it. But thank you for the offer. All right, so yeah, the problem. I'll maybe give people a couple of seconds to write what the problem is here, with my king heading off to the king's side on an adventure. And I can give everyone a good resource whilst we're waiting, which is Daniel Naroditsky's King and Pawn Endgame playlist that he has on his channel. And in that, he has black can make a passed pawn. Yeah, how can black make a passed pawn? And yeah, I mean, I think you see it for sure. But yeah, a large part of his playlist is about breakthrough patterns. So there's a hint if you haven't got it by now. But I think Mauve has got it mauve. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Mauve or mauve. Yeah, the problem is that black can play the move b5, and after I take, then black has this passed pawn. Now, obviously, they can't do it right now, but it does confine my king to the square of this pawn, right? This is the square of this pawn, so my king can't really leave here. Well, my king needs to make sure that they are able to enter the square of the pawn on the next move. So, for example, if the king was here, black could play this. I will promote first, so doesn't, like I said, it doesn't work, but there's a world in which it works. And so this endgame might actually be winning for black. I tried to work this out with my opponent. We thought it might actually be winning for black. I thought it was winning for white. Yeah, the b pawn can move, and if you take, the a pawn is passed. Absolutely correct. So yeah, as soon as we, and I think, you know, I can understand why I misvisualized this. First of all, I didn't take enough time, but second of all, you know, the d pawn is shifting to the c file, and like, I can forgive my subconscious brain for not feeding me the breakthrough until I actually saw it in front of me. But, you know, the key lesson here is definitely, I had 45 minutes left on my clock before I played king e2. Yeah, that is it is not good enough to only spend a few minutes on this move. I had to really spend like 15 or 20 minutes trying to work out exactly how I was going to win this king and pawn endgame. Because the alternative is we're probably just going to shuffle these queens around, right? I'm pretty confident in my ability to draw this endgame with the queens on. So it's not like I'm taking a massive risk by falling behind in the clock to work this out. I should have taken the time to do that. Weirdly, I was watching that Daniel Naroditsky endgame playlist today, so very fresh in my mind. Yeah, that is funny. He's got some crazy names for these breakthroughs. Yeah, like the bathtub and the, I can't remember, like East Coast, West Coast. I don't know, strange names, but I actually think that these names are great. For example, in king and pawn endgames, I made up a heap of names for the endgames myself, because a lot of them are just like, they're almost like codes. I remember this one endgame, it was like, 2 pawns separated by 2 files when the king is within the square of the pawns and the pawns are still on the 4th rank. And that's like the title in the endgame book. And I called it the SpongeBob square flanks position. And I remember that position and I know what it looks like. And honestly, I think I remember it because I called it the SpongeBob square flanks position. I think otherwise it would have just left my mind forever. So, yeah. So we get here and I realize this. So my plan is to create a pass pawn. I still think I'm winning here, by the way. Even though I spot this breakthrough, I'm like, oh, I can play e4 and d5, and then I'm going to create a pass pawn in the center of the board, and I free up the d4 square for my king, right? If I can get these pawns up, then my king can just float on up into this square, and I can take this pawn. Once again, I miscalculated. Not taking enough time in a position like this. So, definitely not perfect chess, both from me or my opponent, as we'll see. So I continue with my plan. King comes to here. I push the pawn. And the positions I had visualized were this one, which I think I'm definitely winning. I'm going to pick up this pawn, and yeah, and I'm going to use this pawn as a distraction whilst I go and get everything else. So, yep. That would be winning, I think. The other line was that they come to here and I come to here, same thing. But now you'll probably see what I missed. It's more obvious in this position. So that was my calculation before I played e4. And I missed this move. Again, I think it's not like, I shouldn't be missing this move. I should be taking my time. But for some reason I just thought e5 was not a move that was, yeah, I just didn't see it. And after they played this, I thought, oh dear, I'm in quite some trouble now. So I actually think if I played f4 here, in order to stop that, now my plan is actually pretty good. But the thing is, they're now just in time to play this move. So yeah, I don't think this is working. Yeah, so yeah, these details very much matter. Yeah, all right. So d5, f4. I played king f3, and now I think my opponent may have blundered, because I think black is winning here now. But I think I don't know if they're winning though. I remember after this move came, I sort of this was I couldn't calculate it all. It's too complex. But what I thought was, whilst I have this connected past pawn, black can't leave the square of the pawn. So even if they make something happen over here, or over here, they're gonna have to do it with just their pawns. And the king, even if they manage somehow to create a passed pawn, the king can never actually come over here, because they'll have to leave the square of the d5 pawn. So I thought they're always going to have to babysit this. And yeah, I should be okay. So that was my calculation here. So I played this, and then they played b5. So they went for this breakthrough, I guess miscalculating that my king can actually still come into the square of the pawn. And like I said, I saw this breakthrough as soon as we entered the game, so I was keeping it in the back of my mind. And so I was really surprised that they played this, because now I think they have to take. I did wonder what happened after they push, but I don't think this is good, because now I have both of these passed pawns, and my king can come back in plenty of time, and their king is actually going to have some trouble, because yeah, I think that this is probably winning for me, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so they took, and now black is in some trouble. And this is the game-losing blunder, I believe. g5. I actually think black still might be winning, which I know is shocking, but I think they might still be winning here. I think maybe if they play h5 with the idea of playing, there's another breakthrough here that we did analyze, which I think, let's say I just continue to come over and get the pawns. Maybe they bring the king first. Oh, actually, I can play this move. Then maybe they can play this. And if I back up the pawn, then they have this. Pointing out that, okay, let's say, again, I come after these pawns, that they can take. And if I take back, no, that's not it. Shit, what is it again? That they can push. Why? It's so weird, isn't it, that you can't remember. Like, I went over this like 1,000 times with my opponent. Right. No, I can't. I can't work it out. All right. Well, there you are. Stellar analysis as I slowly die of tiredness here. There was some breakthrough on the king's side. You must trust me. Let's get back to the game. g5, critical mistake. I played g4 and figure now there is no breakthrough. Absolutely no breakthrough. They can't play f5, they can't play h5, the king can't enter. It's completely blocked off. So now I'm just going to scoop up the pawns, and I've also given myself an important thing in king and pawn endgames, 2 reserve tempi here with f3 and g3, so I can always come back. I can always use those if needed. So this is how the game went. they went for this. I can just replace the g4 pawn and keep that status quo I was talking about. No breakthrough here. I take, and then I push. And I had calculated all of this after they played g5. I was at least I recovered from not calculating and started to calculate. I will at least give myself credit for that. I really started doing proper lines after realizing that I wasn't taking this, you know, I wasn't putting the work that needed to be done into the position. So I calculated that to here, and then I figured that I can win because I have the reserve tempi and they don't. I didn't see this move, I have to say, but it doesn't actually make a difference. I can use this pawn as a distraction. They transpose, but I shoved it again. It doesn't make a difference. And now I'm surely gonna win. So you now use this pawn as a distraction and get the rest. And we can take a quick look at the rest of the game. Use the c pawn as a distraction here. This is here you go. Sometimes it's not really critical here. Doesn't matter, but it's a nice use of the reserve tempi just to gain the opposition. Makes my life easier. I don't have to think so much. And here my opponent resigned. I'm just going to leave this pawn here. And the black king's going to have to collect it whilst I go and grab all of these pawns. I don't think I need them all, but I'll take them. And yeah, Jeremy Silman in his endgame book calls this the fox in the chicken coop. I'm not very smart, so it took me a while to work out that metaphor. The king is the fox, and the pawns are the chickens. So I won. I won the game. Don't know where that takes me up to, but it does mean I'm going to have an intimidating opponent next week. Alright, so I do want to come back and eventually look at some of these other lines, but I'm tempted to leave it there with these lessons for now. So what were those lessons? Let's refresh our memories. So we come to move 11. After black castle, sorry, move 12, I played the move a3. When I wasn't really sure what to do, and it's a completely non-critical position, I can move practically anything and play almost any move, and probably nothing will change. I should have just played queen d2, and instead I moved a pawn. I played the move a3 when I absolutely didn't have to, and that caused me a real headache. I actually still like knight a4 here instead. Oh wait, it wasn't here I like knight a4, was it? No, it's here I like knight a4, but either way, sorry, move 12 I like knight a4. But you know, either way, a3 was weakening. So next critical moment for me, our next thought process error was this one. Move 15, knight takes e2. I should have recognized that my calculation wasn't really correct with the move queen c1 at the end of this line, and abandoned my plan and gone, well, that was a mistake. I should just take with the queen and double rooks, and my position is not ideal, but it's still fine. So then this is all normal. And then now I start to untangle all my positions. Fine. King f1 was a hallucination. I don't really have too much to say about that. That's just going to go away with practice. If you hallucinate something, you hallucinate it. There's not much you can do about it. Well, I mean, there is. It's get better at chess, but there's not, you know, philosophizing about why I hallucinated is not going to help me to not hallucinate. You know, double check your lines. Eventually, your visualization will improve, I guess. Anyway, I did catch my own hallucination immediately, and at least my opponent didn't know what to do here. They played h6. I played queen a2, and I managed to get my queen to the square. And then everything was traded off, and we come to the final takeaway from this game for me, which is I had 45 minutes left on my clock. And again, I knew in my own mind, and I was saying in my own mind, just like I was saying, don't move a pawn if you're not sure what to do. Never enter a king and pawn endgame if you're not absolutely certain that you're winning. And I did not take enough time. I was like gut feeling, I think I'm better. And I think my confidence in endgames often makes me arrogant, essentially. And I really need to watch that I'm not like, yeah, well, even if the endgame's not better for me, I'll probably win it. That's not the way to evaluate a position. You should evaluate a position based on the position, not on how good you think you might be at playing those positions. Although, I mean, obviously that can factor in when you're deciding between two roughly equal positions, but, you know, not in this case. King and pawn endgame is pretty concrete, and I should definitely not be making decisions like that. So, yeah, this is the final takeaway for me, that now I spotted the breakthrough, and it's very unclear, actually. And I am so curious as to whether or not this was winning for black. I think it is. I'm going to check, but I'm actually not going to do it on the stream, which understand might be annoying, but the last time I turned on Stockfish whilst I was streaming, the entire stream crashed. So I'm not going to do that, but I will. I am curious, and I'm going to have a look. All right, so that's been an hour, and I actually think that might be enough for this game. I'm really happy, is what I'll say. Chess has the power to ruin whole weekends for people, but I've just been smiling the whole day. You know, end of a long day, and I'm still super pleased. I can't wait till they update the league table. And I can see exactly where I am, but I went from 29th to 27th with my draw last week, and this week I have a win. Next week is going to be really interesting. So I have this ridiculous score now, 9.5 out of 13, but I am actually have an 100% win rate with the black pieces, and I will definitely have the black pieces next week, because I actually thought I was going to have them this week. So I'm now +2. I've had 2 extra white games, so I'll definitely have a black game next week. But my opponent's going to be really good. That is certain. My opponent is almost definitely... There's only one person under 1700 that I could probably play. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough game. And these are the internal ratings. Normally these people's KNSB ratings are higher than their internal ratings. So yeah, it's going to be a great challenge, one that I'm really looking forward to. So we'll see how it goes. All right, thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate you being here. Appreciate your time, and yeah, I think we'll wrap that one up now. As always, I'll do some quick plugs. Follow me on Twitter at the Ono Zone, the ONO Zone. I have a blog on Lichess. Some people like it. You can check that out from the community's blog page, or just follow me on Lichess, the Ono Zone. I'm a chess coach. You can hire me. My website, theonozone.com. Check that out. What else do I want to plug? I think that's about it. Listen to the podcast, and maybe see you next Tuesday. Will be the next time we're streaming. We're playing rapid games, which yeah. A warning, lower quality games there, but we're getting used to playing and talking at the same time, so we're getting there. All right, thank you very much, and hope everyone has a great Friday and a great weekend.